into the third night of our discussion. And before I can continue on the topic, one little clarification that was brought to me immediately after I finished my lecture last night. Apparently it seems that in the course of the lecture last night, this is regarding that hadith that I had mentioned at the very beginning, wherein I had mentioned that there is no need to become hopeless and despondent when we hear all these masail of what would happen on the day of judgment and ma ba'd. And we had said that solutions are there. At that time I had quoted a tradition from the Holy Prophet, wherein I had stated that he had mentioned a group of women, if they have three categories, they would be saved from the punishment of the grave. Apparently one of them was missed out. So I would just want to finish that before I can continue with tonight's topic. Yesterday we had mentioned three traits that were required for a woman to be saved from the punishment of the grave. One would be that woman who had the characteristic, who had the trait that if the husband was in a state of poverty, she would bear the poverty with comfort, with ease, without those kit and knick-knack. One. Second trait of this group of women, if they want to save themselves from the punishment of the grave, is that if their husband was bad in behavior, foul of mouth, always troubling, always shouting, always disturbing, and if she bore this problem of the husband with patience, she would be deserving and classifying herself as one of the ladies to be protected from the punishment of the grave. And the third thing that I had missed out was this, that the tradition says the third trait of this group of ladies who protect themselves by means of their actions from the punishment of the grave is that lady, at the time of marriage, one of the shart, one of the requirements is that the husband gives the lady the mahar. This tradition says if this lady returns the mahar back to the husband for a problem that he may be having, for any trouble that he may be facing financially, and she steps forward, takes the mahar, which is her property, given to her on the night of Laylatul Zifaf, on the night of wedding, and she says, my husband, you are trying for me, you are working for us, you're working for the family, right now you're in a problem financially, you take my mahar and help yourself. A lady who forgives the mahar, gives the mahar to the husband when he is in financial need, is one of those ladies who will save herself from the punishment of the grave. And while we are at the incident of mahar, let me tell you one little small thing and then we move ahead, so that the ladies, if they want to practice, can use this to establish a kind of a comfort in the house. There are certain narrations which state that this mahar that is there given by the husband to the ladies, it's not ordinary money. It is something that is one of the dictates of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this money that this man gives to the wife is becoming mutabarrika. It is blessed. So if he is given, for example, 514 pounds, that money is not ordinary money. That money has now become blessed. That money has now become mutabarrik. Tradition says if at time a husband falls sick, and despite all efforts to have him cured, despite all money spent on his treatment, if he still doesn't recover, tradition says if the lady uses that mahar for the treatment of this husband, the amount of time that it will take for him to recover will be very fast. Because now this mubarak money, this mutabarrik money, once used for the benefit of the husband, has more effect than ordinary money, which if used for the treatment of the husband. So this was just a passing reference to the discussion that we were having. And now let's come back to it. Last evening we discussed about the length of the span of the day of judgment, the Qiyamah. And we have said, the Quran says, تَعْرُجُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالْرُوحُ إِلَيْهِ فِي يَوْمٍ كَانَ مِقْدَارُهُ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ 50,000 سَنَةٍ 50,000 years of this length of a day, for which man, having spent 50, 60, 70 years in this world, has to account for it. Logical, illogical, we're not concerned. Whether it is appropriate, not appropriate, we're not concerned. We're just concerned if we have to spend 50, 60 years of this life and then account for it for 50,000 years, it's a big problem. And problem is more, because those 50,000 years are not going to be like you sit in your living room, sitting on the sofa with the plasma television on. The horrors of the Day of Judgment we shall hear. Today we will just have a trailer. The remaining things will come another 3 lectures and 2 lectures down the line. But those 300 years that we mentioned last night, when a man with 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot outside, is not an ordinary thing. Because at that point of time, as I had mentioned earlier, the Day of Judgment is a day when everything has a perception, when everything is living, when everything is intelligent. In fact, not even after the Day of Judgment, even as soon as Malakul Maut is seen and a person enters from dunya into barzakh or dunya into akhirah, everything assumes a different meaning. So on the Day of Judgment, it is said that the grounds that you see, the plains that you see, the earth on which you and me shall stand will be very intelligent. For a righteous person, for a pious person, it will be very calm and cool. As you're doing the tawaf at the mataf of the house of God, underneath there's that cooling system that goes. For a pious person, for a good person, for a person who has spent his life in accordance to the laws of Allah, that place would become cool and comfortable. But immediately a foot besides that, if a person is a sinner, that place will become flaming hot. That place will be spewing fire. For one person standing, another person 1 foot beside him, the ground which we appear to feel as same will be acting entirely different. For this person cool and comfortable, for this person hot and burning. It knows exactly whom to pick and whom not to pick. This is from the traditions of the Ma'asumin that we are talking about. And even before that, even Day of Judgment is too far ahead. And it's too far into the realities. Even after the death, when you see, tradition says when a person like you and me, when we walk across the earth, tradition says this earth, the grave keeps calling out to us. When a person dies, when a person is going to be put into the grave, that grave calls out to us. That's a different issue that you and me can't hear it. You and me cannot comprehend it. But the reality, tradition says, when a person is about to be taken and put into that grave, if that person is a good person, if that person is a pious person, that grave calls out to him and says, Tuba lak, well done to you. Bravo for all that you did in this world, because I have been waiting for you to come into me. All your life you had spent in the way of God. Now I'm going to give you the compensation for what you have done. Come into me, for I'm going to extend myself. Come into me, for I'm going to become one of the gardens of paradise. The calling out takes place. We don't hear, the deceased hears. But at the same time, if the person is a sinner, if he's a fasik, if he's a fajr, when he's nearing the grave calls out. It's saying, you have been disobedient to God. And all along I had been praying to God that you don't come to me. But now that you are coming to me, I will show you what I can do. Because now I'm going to fill my belly with fire of hell, and I'm going to be your accompaniment. I'm going to be in your company up to the Day of Judgment, and I will show you what I will do to you for the sake that you have been opposing God all throughout your life. Everything becomes important, everything becomes perceiving, everything becomes intelligent in the Akhirat. And when we talk about the book of deeds, you will see. And when we talk about little bit of Jahannam, you will see. And when we talk about the Pool Sirat, you will see. And when we talk about the fire of hell in these subsequent nights, we will see that how effective it is as far as its perception is concerned. It knows exactly whom to pick and whom to leave. But these horrors go on. And it has been emphasized so many times. Those 1,200 odd verses that are there in the Quran are not just simple verses. If one has to ponder over them, you would find that you would not be able to sleep. Not you, you are definitely better. I would not be able to sleep. Because when you look at Surah Al-Hajj, the picture that it paints, the first verses of Surah Al-Hajj, Ya ayyuhan nas ittaqu rabbakum, not Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, not oh you who believe, no Ya ayyuhal kafirun, no you don't believe. It's a general universal statement. Ya ayyuhan nas, oh you people, ittaqu rabbakum, fear your God. Inna zalzalat as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim. That zalzala and the earthquake that will come and which will usher in the day of judgment, shay'un 'azim, it's a great thing. And you know what will happen on that day when you are about to enter into the day of judgment, when you are about to face resurrection, when you are about to stand before your God accounting all your deeds before Him. يَوْمَ تَرَوْنَهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ أَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتٍ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا وَتَرَى النَّاسَ السُّكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِالسُّكَارَى وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. He's saying, you know what will happen on that day? A day which is so horrific, a day which is so horrendous, a day which is so frightening that you will find تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ أَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. You will find ladies who are suckling their child, leaving their child. If you look at scientific theories of love of a mother, you would find the maximum amount of love that a mother harbors for the child. In normal circumstances, you cannot compare the love of the mother to the child. But if you were to find out what is that peak of the love of a mother for the child, it is said at the time when the mother is suckling the child and the child is feeding from the milk of the mother, that is the time when the emotions of a mother is at its peak. Allah says that peak emotion of a mother with respect to the child will come to naught when she sees the fright of the day of judgment. وَتَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ أَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. Even if she is feeding the child, and when the emotion of the mother is peak, is at its zenith, it at its peak for the child, she will leave the child and say, go away, I am now worried about myself, not worried about feeding you. وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا. And Quran says on that day the fright will be so horrendous that ladies who will be having children in the stomach, pregnant ladies, because of the fear and the fright of the day of judgment, will miscarry, will suffer miscarriage, will abort the child, not out of intention, not out of wanting, but because of the fear is so great. And Quran says this is not anything. You will find people moving around in a daze. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ السُّكَارَى. Again the word sukr comes. At the time of sakaratul maut we had said, sakara means intoxication of death. Here again in the Quran, Allah uses the word sukara. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ السُّكَارَى. When you look around on the day of judgment, you will find people in a state of senselessness. You will find people moving as if they are intoxicated. They are doing actions as if which is not comparable to what a person does in a normal life. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى. You will think these people are drunk. You will feel these people are intoxicated. Quran says, وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. Don't make a mistake. These are not drunk. Their senselessness, their irresponsible behavior, their incomprehensible walk, their incomprehensible actions are not out of intoxication of an alcohol. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. The punishment of God when they see is so immense, will cause them to lose all sense of time, place and action. وَتَرَى النَّاسُ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِالسُّكَارَى وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. I say, you know what happens on that day for the kuffar, for the sinners, for those who know what is waiting for them? In Surah Al-Anbiya, now these are all Quran we are quoting. Surah Al-Anbiya says, when this wa'adul haq will come, the promised truth or the truthful promise of the day of judgment will take place. فَإِذَا شَاخِصَةٌ أَبْصَارُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. At that time, the eyes of the people who do not believe in God, who were sinning in this world, who decided to throw all caution to the winds as far as the rulings of Allah was concerned, شَاخِصَةٌ أَبْصَارُهُمْ. Their eyes will stare fixedly. But the word over here, fixedly, is very incorrect. Because the term is shakhisatun absarul ladhina kafaru. The eyes of the people who do not believe in God will become shakhisa. The only word in English language to explain the meaning of this is staring fixedly. But when you turn to the Arabic language, you find that the term staring fixedly is not correct, because shakhisa refers to something that comes out of its place. Anything that comes out of its place is referred to as shakhisa. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, when these sinners will see my punishment on the day of judgment, their eyes will become shakhisa. Imam says, Masoom says, on that day of judgment, this verse wants to say that when the punishment is there before these individuals, it will be as if the eyes of the sinners want to just pop out of their sockets. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ الشَّدِيدُ. A state of absolute startlement. Ayatollah Dastagir Shirazi says the situation would be like when you have birds sitting on a tree and a firecracker grows, or you clap your hands, how all of a sudden in a state of startlement all of them just fly off, not knowing where to go, not knowing where they are going, not knowing where they intend to go. They just want to rush from that place. On the day of judgment, when the order will come to the people, Qumu, stand up, this is how people will start running helter-skelter. But at that time there will be no relationships. Father and mother, this doesn't matter. Every man will be calling himself Nafsi Nafsi. You may have given me birth, you may have suckled me for 2 years, you may have caught my hand and helped me to walk, but now that is not the time. Now I'm only worried about myself. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ الشَّدِيدَ. And it is this punishment of the day of judgment that not only people like you and me ordinary, not only the Prophet, but even angels who are there working together, running the nizam and the order of God, fear. You remember the first night, we had mentioned the story about those youths from Bani Israel, and when they go to the grave, reach a grave, and they want to understand what is the pain of death, and they raise their hands, Oh Allah, grant us an opportunity to talk to this inmate of this grave so that we may know what he has suffered to. At that time I had told you that that grave split and a person came out, face, beard white, eyebrows white, hair white, a state of absolute shock and awe, looking towards the skies, comes out and asks, yes, what is it? At that time I had said I'm leaving out a portion because that was not relevant to the point discussed. Now it is relevant, because when this person comes out and these youths ask him, what was the punishment, what was the pain that you experienced, and he talked about those 99 years of pain that he was still enduring. At that time, the next question that these youths ask him is, old man, now that you have come out of the grave and you appear to be old, was it that you died at an old age that this hair of yours became white? He's saying, no, I did not die at an old age. I died at a young age. They asked him, what is the reason that your hair has become white? He's saying, 99 years being in the grave, my flesh had all gone. My skin had all gone, disintegrated, decayed, eaten by insects, eaten by the inhabitants of the grave. But as soon as you prayed, an order came from the skies and told me, go out. As soon as the order of go out came to me, I found that all the bones of my skeleton automatically started to link itself together. Automatically flesh came upon it. Automatically skin came upon it. The grave split apart and I came outside. But that order that came, I felt as if the day of judgment was going to come. And the fright of the day of judgment turned my hair from black to white. Sallu ala Muhammadin. And that's why it's said always, whenever the Prophet would talk about day of judgment, his face would become flush, crimson, out of fright. So many times it has happened, when he would reveal verses of the Jahannam to Bibi Fatima, she would collapse, she would faint. Why do you think Imam Ali alayhi salam in the Masjid of Kufa, middle of the night, crying and streaming, praying to God. من قلة الزاد وبعد السفر وطول الطريق. Oh, the distance is so far, the provisions of Ali are very less. How will Ali endure this journey from this world into the Qiyamat? It is not for anything that the Ma'asumin fear. Even the angels fear. There's a tradition, there's a hadith, there's an incident. Once Hazrat Jibreel comes down from the skies, he's sitting with the Prophet. They're discussing issues. All of a sudden, the Prophet is talking to Jibreel. Jibreel looks on the skies. As soon as he looks into the skies, the Prophet is looking at Jibreel. Jibreel is looking at the skies. All of a sudden, as Jibreel is looking at the skies, the Prophet observes that his face is changing. The color drains from his face. His eyes, his face show signs of absolute fright. He begins to shiver. In this state, he comes nearer to the Prophet and holds the Prophet's hand. Observing this, the Prophet looks up. What does he see? He sees a huge angel. Angel so colossal, so huge that you look from the east, you would see his figure. You look into the west, see his figure. The entire form of that malak encompasses the entire skies. This angel comes to the Prophet, says, Assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah. The Prophet replies to him. After having replied to him, the Prophet looks at him, at Jibreel. He is still shivering and he's still shaking. In the meantime, that angel that comes has a discussion with the Prophet. Says a certain message from God has come. Because Jibreel is over here, I am coming and bringing this message. He passes the message. As the communication is going on between the Prophet and that angel, the Prophet is looking at Jibreel and observes that he's slowly returning back to normal. His shivering stops. The fear goes from his face. The color comes back to his face. He leaves the hand of the Prophet. He returns back to his normal state. After communicating with that angel, tradition says the Prophet sees. This is a narration, Prophet is stating. He's saying, I saw that angel. He takes one step onto the first skies of the world. He takes the next step and goes into the second skies. He takes the third step, goes into the third sky. The fourth step into the fourth sky, and henceforth he goes to the seventh skies and goes towards the arsh of God, disappears from sight. When he sees this, he turns to Jibreel. Jibreel, first of all, I don't know who this angel is. He knows it, but this narration needs to come to you and me to realize the emphasis of the topic that we are discussing. He turns to Jibreel and says, two things I need to know. Who is this? One. Second, what was this change that took place on your face? You Sayyidul Malaika. You are the chief of the angels. You are one of the Muqarrabeen of God. You are one of the closest of angels of God. This fright overtaking you, what is the reason? He's saying, Ya Rasulullah, this angel that you see, this angel that you saw, is the angel Israfil. His job is, never from the time that he has been created, has he moved out of his place from the seventh heavens. This entity of his is so huge that you saw one leg on this earth, the other leg on the first skies. One leg in the first sky, the other leg in the second sky. He is not supposed to come down since the time he was created. And since the time I have been created, he has not moved from his place. But we have been informed that his one major role, his one major task, his one major job is to bring about the day of judgment. Never having seen him move, now when I saw him coming, I thought Allah has ordained the arrival of day of judgment. The very fact that the thought of day of judgment crossed into my mind, my body started to shiver. The feared color drained from my face. When I saw him, that he came to pass a message of Allah to you, and he discussed with you, and it had got nothing to do with the day of judgment, I calmed down and returned to my normal self. Hope these are angels we are talking about. These are Muqarrabeen of Allah that we are talking about. When they fear the day of judgment so much, at least a little haqq that we've got to fear this day of judgment. But having understood this, we will still come to those punishment of the various groups that will be punished on the day of judgment, and the bounties that Allah will give to the pious person will come. But as we are understanding, this was just a preliminary little discussion, a trailer. But when we discuss the day of judgment, one thing is certain, that it is going to come suddenly. And the word that Quran uses is baghtatan, suddenly. We will discuss. Suddenly means what? A little later. But suddenly it will come. People will not have any chance. But the Quran says, and the traditions indicate on certain signs that give you and me an indication as to how close the day of judgment is. Some signs in the Holy Quran, some signs mentioned by the Ma'asumeen. We do not have time to discuss all the signs of the day of judgment. Just to discuss those signs, we might need 6 to 7 lectures of an hour each. As it is, that the way that I am going, just the third lecture that we are in, I already feel I am lagging behind by at least 35 to 40 minutes. That means in the 2.5 lectures that we've done now, I need another one more lecture, the 13th lecture, to finish the topic. But let us see how we go ahead. These signs of the day of judgment that are there, some in the Quran, some in the Ahadith, can be classified into 3 categories. 3 categories of signs. One category of signs refer to those signs that indicate that Qiyamah is coming near. It is very near now. We will discuss them. We will pick up a few important ones and explain to you. The second category of signs are those things and those events that will take place on the threshold of Qiyamah. That means this happens immediately after that Qiyamah is coming. And the third category of events and circumstances and happenings and occurrences are those that are simultaneous to Qiyamah. That means this happens and Qiyamah has come. These will cause the Qiyamah to come. But right now we have to go into all 3 of them. We'll go very fast. Those signs that indicate that the Qiyamah is coming. Certain things in the Quran. Surah Al-Dukhan, verse number 10 and 11. It was the verse that I recited at the beginning of the lecture. Quran says, Surah Dukhan, verse number 10 and 11. وَارْتَقِبْ يَوْمَ تَأْتِي السَّمَاء بِالدُّخَانٍ مُبِينٍ يَخْشَى النَّاسِ هَذَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. He's saying, wait and be patient. Expect a day on which the skies will turn into smoke. Dukhanim mubin, manifest smoke. It will fill. I'm not going to tafsir now. Let me translate the words. فَارْتَقِبْ يَوْمَ تَأْتِي السَّمَاءُ بِالدُّخَانٍ مُبِينٍ. Wait for the day in which the skies will get converted into a smoke. This smoke that is there, يَغْشَى النَّاسِ, which will encompass the entire humanity. Nobody will be free from it. Nobody will escape from it. It will encompass every single creature that is there in this world. Then Quran says, هَذَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. This is a painful punishment. Before the main punishment of the day of judgment starts, we will give you a smoke. When this ayah came down, the Holy Prophet was sitting with his companions. They asked him, what is this dukhan mubin? What is this smoke? Prophet's tradition, he's saying. He's saying, nearing the day of judgment, a smoke will emanate, so thick, so immense, so vast. يَمْلَأُ مَا بَيْنَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. The entire distance between Mashriq and Maghrib, between East and West. Normally in the tradition, when you hear the words min mashriq ila maghrib or min maghrib ila mashriq, from east to the west, it indicates totality. It's saying yamla'u ma bayna al-mashriq wal-maghrib. A smoke will emanate, thick black smoke. It will encompass everything that is there on the earth. One. Yabqa 40 laylatan wa yawman. For 40 days and 40 nights it will encompass. Yaghshannas, all the people will come under its control. It will overtake everybody. Saying Hada Adabun Alim, which the Quran says this smoke will be a punishment from God. But the smoke again nearing the day of judgment will be an intelligent smoke, Because the Quran says it will behave differently from a person who is a sinner to a person who is a pious person. All of them encompassed by the smoke, but the effect of the smoke on both of them will be different. When the smoke encompasses a pious person, he will be overcome by a small little state of zakma. The word in the tradition is a zakma. Zakma means what we call flu, not swine flu, that is too deep. Normal flu. Normal flu, a cold, a common cold. This is what it will have an effect upon pious individuals. But then the Quran, the tradition says, when it comes to the kuffar, when it comes to the sinners, when it comes to the fusaq, it's saying it will enter into its body. It will bloat its body. Internally it will start burning him. And from every hole that is there in the body, from the eyes, from the ears, from the nostrils, even the word min duburehi, from the anal outlet, the smoke will come out, sizzling everything that is there in the body. How it is going to take place, don't ask me. When it is going to take place, don't ask me. Because neither the ayat says, nor the ahadith says, where, how, in what manner, what will cause this, we don't know. Nor do we want to enter into any interpretation. Probably it's a nuclear war. Probably it's the nuclear radiation. We are not concerned. We do not want to interpret. We want to know what will happen. How it will happen, we leave it to afterwards. This is not the occasion. This is not the forum. What we need to know is a smoke will come, encompass, and in numerous traditions, this is one fact that has been repeatedly found. Sometimes in traditions, few signs are mentioned. Sometimes in other traditions, other signs are mentioned. But one common factor in all these traditions is the occurrence of this thick smoke affecting the sinner in one way and a pious person in another way. That is one. A second thing which you and me have to take into consideration, if we need to know whether the Qiyamat is coming or not, is what has been stated in Surah Al-Anbiya, verse number 96. In order to explain this, we'll have to go a little in history. But what is this sign that indicates if it happens? Then we know, very near to the Day of Judgment. Because these are those categories of signs that indicate Qiyamah is now about to come. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse number 96. وَإِذَا فُتِحَتِ الْيَاجُوجُ وَمَاجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ جَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. Surah Anbiya verse 96 says, and at the time when Yajuj and Majuj will become free, they will come running from every mount, every mound, and every mountain quickly and hastily. Tradition says, when Yajuj and Majuj become free, it's very close to Qiyamah. Traditions, ayat says, وَإِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَاجُوجُ وَمَاجُوجُ, when they become free. That means Yajuj and Majuj are in captivity. So now, we need to know, if you have to understand this tradition, this ayah, as one of the signs indicating the nearness of the Day of Judgment, what is and who is this Yajuj and Majuj? One, if it is said وَإِذَا فُتِحَتْ, they will be freed. When they become free, when they become liberated, we have to know, how did they come into imprisonment? And when we talk about this, and whenever you talk about Yajuj and Majuj, you have to mention one pious servant of God. Till we don't understand this, we will not understand what is meant by وَإِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَاجُوجُ وَمَاجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ جَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. From every mountain they will come running, hastily, quickly. Let's go in history. Yajuj and Majuj are the Arabic terms of similar terms used in the Tawrat or the Torah. The biblical equivalent of Yajuj and Majuj, which is mentioned in the book of Ezekiel, in the Tawrat, chapters 29 and 30, or 28 and 29. There it is referred to as Gog and Magog. Islam refers to them as Yajuj and Majuj. If you refer to Tafasir, of scholars, Allama Tabatabai, Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi and the likes, you'll find there's a history behind this Yajuj and Majuj. Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog, which is referred to again in the book of Ezekiel of the Torah, whom we refer to as Hizqeel, the prophet Hizqeel, has a very long history behind it. Historical evidences and traditions prove that Yajuj and Majuj are two groups, two tribes, two nations and two communities of absolutely savage, plundering, looting and barbaric people who lived in the northeastern part of Asia, somewhere near Mongolia of today. And traditions state that these two groups or these two clans or these two tribes, Yajuj one, Majuj another, living in the northeastern part of Asia, somewhere bordering around Mongolia of today, savage people, barbaric people, had one quality in them, that they would reproduce very fast. So in a very short time, from the time that they came into existence, they began to spread very heavily. They began to reproduce very heavily. And within a short time, their numbers grew so immensely that they could not station themselves in the place where they were originally stationed. And because of their intense number, the kathir ta'adad that was there, they would start moving south and they would start moving east towards China, towards down south of Mongolia. And very soon, because of their number, very soon because of their absolute savagery and barbarism, they overcame all that entire region, which is now northeast of Asia, bordering between China and Mongolia. And this group, part of it, history records their military and savage expeditions. I will mention two because these two are very commonly known, and you would definitely know them. One of them was a military now this was a very savage tribe. They would make attacks, they would attack, they would plunder, they would loot without any mercy. And two names I will mention because of two military expeditions which history has recorded from this group. One took place in the 4th century of Christian era, when one of this group of these savage Yajuj and Majuj went and took a military expedition and attacked the Roman Empire, completely destroying the Roman Empire, completely almost obliterating the Roman Empire. Savage, very ferocious, very barbaric. This expedition, which broke down the Roman Empire in the 4th century Christian era, was led by their leader by the name of Attila the Hun. He was one of the leaders. Tradition says belonged to this group of Yajuj and Majuj. The second expedition, belonging to the same group, was led in the 12th century, when another of its leader, equally ferocious, equally barbaric, launched an attack on the Muslim world, obliterating and destroying numerous Islamic cities and Arab cities, Baghdad being one of them, under the leadership of Genghis Khan. Both of them belong to the same group, but the Yajuj and Majuj that is described in the Quran was an offshoot of this group. What happened to this group I will tell you, but the remaining people under Attila the Hun won. And I believe both Attila the Hun as well as Genghis Khan, their life histories have been made into movies. Now when this incident is taking place, these individuals are there. We need to know what happened to that group, about which Quran is saying, وَإِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ, when they will become free. At the olden times when they were still there, eventually afterwards, these people that was there from the lineage of Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan, eventually they fizzled out. But one group still remains. According to the Quran, they're still caught up, they're still imprisoned. Imprisoned by whom? By a person by the name of Dhul Qarnayn. You cannot talk about Yajuj and Majuj without talking about Dhul Qarnayn. Dhul Qarnayn was the person who imprisoned them. How did this imprisonment come about? This savage group, what we are talking about is the 12th century of Genghis Khan. What we just spoke about was 4th century of Attila the Hun. But this group was existing much before. One little group or one offshoot of that group had separated to a region. We don't know the region. But Quran says that they were, because of their savagery and because of their ferociousness and because of their barbaric nature, there was one particular community, there was one particular town that were always oppressed by these Yajuj and Majuj. They would always come to this town, they would plunder it, they would loot it, they would kill and go away. And every short time they would come. The place where this small town was situated, Quran in Suratul Kahf, verse number 93 to 98, explains this entire story, saying this town was situated between two mountains. There was a passageway between two mountains. When one passes the passageway was where this town was situated. And this Yajuj and Majuj would pass from that little narrow passage between two mountains. Quran doesn't mention what is the name of the mountain. Quran doesn't mention which region it is. But we know it is somewhere near that northeastern part of Asia or northwestern part of Asia. But somewhere along the line there are two mountains with a small narrow path beyond which a town lived, a community lived, which was always the focus and subjected to the oppression and the cruelty of Yajuj and Majuj. Getting totally frustrated, they would pray to God, "Oh Allah, find us an assistance to save us from Yajuj and Majuj." Enter Zulqarnain. Surah Al-Kahf 93 to 98 mentions exactly what Zulqarnain did. But who was Zulqarnain? I've got this thing, 15 minutes left. I will take 5 to 7 minutes more. It could even be 10 minutes more. If I don't finish it, I will need at least 2 to 3 lectures after the Ashra. Neither would you have the house line time, nor do I have the time to sit for another 3 lectures. So 10 minutes here would help me out a little. This Zulqarnain, when he comes, tradition Quran says, now this is, I'm talking about Quran, he is supposed to be a very pious man. He is supposed to be a believer of God. No, not supposed to. He was a pious man. He was a believer of God. He believed in resurrection. And because of his nature, because of his piety, he had become very close to God. Not a prophet. Imam Sadiq, when he was asked, he says, "No, ma kana nabiyan, walakin abd salih." He was not a prophet, but he was a righteous man, a pious man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a result of which, Allah had given him lot of favors, lot of benefits, lot of grace, had exposed him to certain knowledge which was not prevalent at that time. Listen what knowledge. Quran says he happens to pass, Surah Al-Kahf I'm talking about, 93 to 98, go and refer to the translation. He happens to pass, فَاتَّبَعَ السَّبِيلَ السَّبَبَ. Then he comes to this place between, بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْن, between two mountains, Quran says. When he reaches there, these people come and tell Zulqarnain, "Zulqarnain, these Yajuj and Majuj are making life hell for us. Because every short time they come, they plunder, they loot, they kill, they go away. They come through the passage. Can you help us a way out? Can you find out a way for us?" He's saying, "Yes, I will help you. But I need you to help me and provide me certain materials." He's saying, "What are you planning to do?" He's saying, "I'm planning, they come from this passage, right? Because at the back there were all mountains. There was one passage through which they would enter, they would rob and they would go back to their places." He's saying, "I'm going to block this passage." That's what it's called, Saddu Zulqarnain, the barrier of Zulqarnain. So you tell them, "Bring the big pieces of iron." Now look at that knowledge of Zulqarnain we're talking. "Bring me big pieces of iron." So they would bring big pieces of iron. He would say, "Lay them at the mouth of this passage." So they would bring those pieces and they would lay one upon the other, till that entire passage got cleared. Got covered. Then he says, "If they say, is this enough?" He's saying, "No, they will push it because they are ferocious, very strong. So what do we need to do?" He's saying, "Get me something that will burn. Get me something that will be inflammable, that is burning." So they make a big fire. And now what? He's saying, now wherever there is these joints where these two pieces of iron are there, heat it. Quran I'm talking about. They begin to heat it, becomes red hot. After becoming red hot, he hits it. Something like what we call welding. How do you weld today? Similar to that, he did that. Every joint where there were two pieces of iron, huge pieces, he would heat it, he would hit it so that they would join together strong, like what we do in welding. At that time, Quran says he was a pious servant. Tradition says Allah gave him knowledge which was not prevalent at that time. Welding now, he's doing it then. After having welded, it became one stable, huge block of iron, blocking that entire passage. He's saying, is that sufficient? He's saying, no, this iron will corrode. He didn't say this. I am telling you now. He's saying, what do you want now? The people asked him. He's saying, get me copper, but heat copper and make it molten. So they bring big, huge cauldrons of molten copper. He's saying, what do we do? He's saying, pour it over this. The entire huge iron structure now, which is one wall of huge iron, is now covered with copper to fortify it. Stainless steel, just pig iron is brittle. You mix it with other items, like copper, it becomes stainless steel, strong. He covers it up with molten copper. This is what Quran says. What he did was, Dhul Qarnayn came, listened to the request of the people. He covered that place of the passage from where Yajuj and Majuj were coming, filled it up with iron, covered it up with copper. Now effectively he has sealed Yajuj and Majuj in that region. You don't know, I don't know. Traditions do not say. Ulama are giving their opinions, yes. Nobody knows where it is. But these people are trapped. There is a community that is living between those mountains where there was a passage where they could come out. Dhul Qarnayn comes, blocks that passage, and traps that entire Yajuj and Majuj within that enclave. Still entrapped. No person has seen it. Quran says they are still trapped. What is the sign of Qiyamah? As the Qiyamah will come near, Allah will cause that dam or that barrier or that wall to collapse. When that wall will collapse, this Yajuj and Majuj, the people of at that time were absolutely frustrated with that oppression, now will come down into this world and wreak havoc. وَإِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَاجُوجُ وَمَاجُوجُ. If this happens, tradition says, remember, Qiyamat's very close. And it will happen. And tradition says, those traditions we talk about Qiyamah, they say a time will come. Right even now, they are trying to break it. God has prevented. I'm talking tradition, these are not stories, my friend. Even now, they try to break it. God has prevented them from breaking it. But a time will come, and tradition says that when they come to break it, as they're doing it now, God will give ta'thir and effect in their actions. That wall will break. That entire community now come into the world. The havoc that they wreak, the havoc that they will wreak, will destroy all sense of order, discipline, nizam and system into the world. That is one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. But when we are talking, you still now, this coming to the signs that are near, the signs that are taking place on the threshold of Qiyamah, and the signs that will take place together with the Qiyamah. As I said always previously, as you keep moving forward, the intensity increases. Whether you were in the stomach, womb of the mother, in the womb of the mother, when you come out, you have troubles. You and me might not know it. The child knows. Again, this is a tradition from the 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa, ayyuhur rida, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. They're saying there are 3 occasions of various serious fright for a person. One, when he comes out from the womb of the mother, seeing things which he has not seen. He experiences the fright. 8th Imam, tradition. Second, when he's entering into Barzakh, from the time he's living into this world, Malakul Maut comes, he's about to die. Very frightened. And that's the reason it is said, a known devil is better than an unknown angel. It refers to this fact. Anything which is not known, anything which is not clear, becomes very difficult to understand. And the third step is when a person will stand up on the Day of Judgment. 2 lectures from now, we will discuss that. But in order to achieve and save ourselves from this, there is need for action in this world. And that is why we all gathered here. Because tonight we need to discuss and mourn over somebody